Welcome to the final interview in our Road to the Top series. Our previous interviews, we talked to dancers from primary to beginner, novice, intermediate, and junior premier. Now we are speaking to an adult elite dancer, Marielle L'Esperance. She is a multi-Ontario champion and Nova Scotia champion. She's a 14 times Canadian champion and a 7-time world champion, and is the current reigning adult world champion as well. Literally the top in this series. We've also asked Marielle's longtime teacher, Ellen Cameron, to participate, to add the teacher's perspective of what it takes to get to the top. Welcome, Marielle and Ellen. Thank you both for being part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's just jump right in first with a little background on Marielle and her dancing career. Marielle, maybe you can start with when you started dancing, how old you were, how you got into it, stuff like that.
So I started dancing when I was 4, just about to turn 5. And I got into it because my oldest sister danced, and I just grew up watching her dance. And I remember being at one of her recitals and seeing a bunch of little kids my age on stage dancing and thinking, I think I could do that, and just really wanting to copy her and to be like those kids on stage. So yeah, I followed her into it, and then I never stopped since. So
how old were you when you first started competing?
I think I was around 6 years old.
Primary, you did?
Yeah, I did a little bit in primary, and yeah, I've been dancing ever since. So it's been a long career. I've been blessed with a long dance career. So yeah.
Ellen, what was Marielle like as a young dancer? Both like personality and you know, innate talent that you saw, and did you see potential from the start?
Well, I didn't get Marielle from the start.
Okay.
Marielle came to me when she was probably 9. Marielle, were you 9?
So, around there.
Yeah, around 9. I think she was novice or intermediate.
Still a young dancer,
and,
still early on.
Yeah. Physically had a lot of talent. Wasn't at the mental spot that I wanted her yet, in that Marielle was completely having a blast dancing, but I needed her to be a little bit more focused, but that was okay. She's young, you know, and I don't force the kids. And especially as I'm getting older, I don't force the kids to try and be older faster, because I know now like how fast that goes, and you want to preserve that, you know. But she joined my dance school and fit in like an old shoe, made a lot of friends, had a great time. And yeah, we just started working on, you know, controlling things and focusing on what we had to do. But it was just like really fun at the start, because like I said, she was only novice or maybe intermediate. I really forget, Marielle.
Yeah, I'm not sure
yeah.
either.
but not into premier yet, and still quite young.
No, not at all.
So from a practice and training perspective, before we hit the pandemic, maybe talk about, and Ellen, you can probably chime in a little bit, when Marielle was younger and first started with you, like how many times when you were in the categories did you practice a week? How many lessons did you have? How has that changed? And then sort of as you've been at the top before the pandemic, how often were you practicing? Your training, how did it change over time?
Well, so growing up, I probably went to about 2 to 3 classes a week with Ellen. It sort of depended. I had to drive into my lessons with her too, so it was an hour drive to Ellen's house and an hour drive home. But we made the trip up about 2 or 3 times a week. Usually, if it was like the springtime going into championship season, we'd definitely be doing at least 3 times a week. So, and then I'd practice the other days on my own. Usually I'd have a rest day or two in there, but Yeah, I think it was kind of half and half with my lessons and my practices. And in more recent years, I'm probably well, I haven't been able to live in the same place as Ellen, so we've done a lot more of like me sending her videos back and forth, and I do a lot more independent practicing. But yeah, just constantly checking in with her to see how I'm getting along, and I think she trusts me to practice now, so she doesn't have to get on my case too much.
When she was younger, she was probably one of the most unique kids I ever taught. And Marielle, you'll remember this when you were little and we go to do something new. You try doing something and you end up jumping on both feet and just like, and I'm like, okay. So she very self, for a period of time when she just started progressing, she didn't fix much at class. But I knew that when she came back the next day or 2 days later, it would be fixed. And I'm just like, okay, you're a weird kid. Like, why are you working on this in class? But she, I think, I don't know, I pick on her and I said, I think you sometimes were so smart that things like bringing second position straight up to third year aerial was just too simple. And you had to sort of mull it through and see if there was a scientific method of doing this properly. I don't know. But anyway, she would fix a lot at home. And so I knew how productive her practices were because there wasn't, and this was when she was young, like 9, 10, 11ish. Yeah, we didn't accomplish a lot in class, but it came back fixed the next night. So she just had to go about doing things on her own way, on how she was going to figure out. But as far as practicing goes, we, yeah, leading up to Ontario's, we usually in the springtime, we had 3 classes. We'd have 2 regular, just full out classes and then a championship class for just the kids going. Very, very few times did Marielle ever have a private lesson. Very few. She just really enjoyed dancing with other people and in their own little ways motivating them. Marielle, I'm trying to remember, some little person came into class one night. You were both tired, if you remember that. It was a 7 or an 8-year-old that was in Premier, and Marielle came in, and she was university at the time, or home from university and working full time, and she was really tired and came into class sort of a little bit, 6:30 at night, worked all day. And then this little person just like kicked into gear, and she's like, wow, that's all it took was seeing her kick into gear, and off I went. So she fed off the energy of anybody and everybody.
You're 7
And
years old and you're in your 20s, then you feel like you really have to step it up.
yeah.
Yeah.
But she was an amazing person to go home and work on what she had to work on. I mean, you don't get to the top by not doing that, right? And
That being said, we also talked about how when I first came to you, I definitely wasn't like that. It was
no, you
I
were there for the party. You had a great time dancing
right off the bat, but somehow I grew into it, and then I managed to stick with it and be pretty self-motivated. But at the start, it definitely took some time before I kind of realized that that's what it would take.
I think she was just enjoying the whole dancing with her friends, going to competitions, having a good time. It was, yeah. And but I think that's what made her fall in love with Highland dancing to start with. If you, I think with any child, if you started them first day and just like, drove them really hard, they might be, yeah, this isn't for me. But once you
get the bite, but it's got to come from within, right?
Yeah.
And at some point, Marielle obviously decided this was something she wanted to get a little more serious with. And
she was very disciplined with her practices. There's no doubt about that. I think the most inspiring was the day her sister got married. And so Marielle had a schedule. She knew exactly what days she had dance class and what days she wanted to practice. And she had days that she had a rest day, because she really believed that, that had to be in her training regime, not in everybody's, but that was hers. The day Sarah got married, I think, Marielle, was your hair appointments at like 9 o'clock in the morning or 9:30 in the morning, and Marielle set her alarm and get up at 6:30 in the morning the day of the wedding to get her practice in, because that was her practice day, and she had to get it in. And I was like, wow, I would not have done that. I never got to the top either, so that might be an explanation why, but that's how regimented she was. And like, even when you go to Scotland, Marielle, like, you know your routine. She knows when she's going to practice and when she's going to have the day off preparing for, yeah. So she just figured out what worked for her. And
did you set goals, or was there a period of time where you started to set goals? Do you still set goals? And if you did, how did they change? Like, was it, I want to go from novice to intermediate, or I want to get a stamp, or I want to win world, you know?
I think I had kind of goals in the back of my mind. When I was younger, those goals were definitely more revolved around competition and awards. And yeah, I definitely, just kind of like everyone does, like you dream really big. So, you know, I would have dreamt of being a Canadian champion someday, but whether that was a real goal, I don't know. Like I never would have really thought that's something that I can achieve. So it was more, you know, maybe I could win the trophy at the local competition or things like that, because I wasn't, like, when I was growing up, I wasn't like a star dancer by any means. I definitely didn't. I maybe won like 2 trophies, 3 trophies, like a couple trophies throughout my like pre-premier career, but I wasn't, you know, a star dancer by any means. And yeah, I think just over time, those goals kind of evolved as I grew older. I was less motivated by the awards and more just about the quality of dancing. Like you know, now I never want to disappoint myself or disappoint Ellen, or, you know, I want to make sure that when I'm going up to dance that I'm dancing better than the last time anyone who's watching me would have seen me. So I think that's my main motivation now, is I'm just thinking, you know, I'm trying to beat where I was at the year before in terms of my dancing, and I definitely don't want to go backwards. So that's kind of, yeah, where I'm at now, I'd say.
And when did you have an inkling, like you said before, that, you know, you maybe dreamed of winning the Canadians or something, but at what point did you start winning, and did the worlds become like, I could maybe do this, I could maybe win the worlds? We'll skip over the provinces and the countries, we'll go straight to the worlds.
Well, I would say I didn't really, even after I won, I was just kind of shocked. Like I just, that wasn't at all in my field of vision to win the worlds.
How old were you when you won your first one? Sorry to interrupt.
I was 14 when I won for the first time, and Ellen and I were talking about this story recently, actually, because the year before, when I was 13, I danced at the Worlds. I made it to the finals, but I didn't end up placing. So I didn't go home with any medals that year. And I remember sitting in the stands and seeing a few of my friends up on stage and just thinking how badly that I wanted to be up there with them. And yeah, it wasn't that, you know, I wasn't going back the next year expecting to go from not getting any medals to winning it, but I think I was just so determined to be up on that stage with my friends and to earn a medal that I sort of overshot my goal a bit and surprised myself. I didn't really.
You had a really good year that year, because you won the Ontarios, you won the Canadians, and I think that was the most memorable Canadians that I had with you, in that when Marielle came off the stage after being presented with her trophy, I ran up and I gave her a big hug. And she actually stood with her arms by her side, just in a blank stare. And I'm like, Marielle, you're a Canadian champion. She, I swear to God, didn't respond. She just was like, she was still a bit in shock, like this happened. And that wasn't the goal. Hey, Marielle, like you qualified to dance at Canadian. She wanted to dance well. She wanted to look like she fit in that group of contenders. And I mean, she certainly had worked really hard. But anyway, so that was Canadians. And then you were going on to, so when you come home from Worlds the summer before, you were quietly disappointed. Marielle doesn't say much. She's, you know, I never get any pouts from her or any big cheering either. She's just very Marielle. And she was quiet when she came back that fall and the first class back. And of course we didn't have texting. That's what, 20 years ago or about. And so I said to her, how did it go? And she said, well, I didn't get anything. And I said, oh, well, okay, that's all right. But I swear to God, that night in class, something was different. Like she was quieter than normal and just on a mission. And that whole year, she just really, really worked hard. And I said to her like a couple times, I know what you're doing. You're going to go back to get a medal this year, aren't you? And she just maybe, you know, like, but she was working really hard. And then that year, I couldn't really go over to Scotland because I had 3 kids in university. Do I need to say any more? And I just wished her good luck. And yeah, I think both of our goals were like a couple of medals. I mean, top 6. But she just worked so hard that year. And then when I got that phone call at 5 after 12 on Saturday morning from Marielle's stepmom, it was just mind-blowing. It was just crazy. But anyway, and then she just kept working from there. And yeah, it's been a good road, Marielle.
So you talked earlier, Ellen, that when Marielle first started dancing with you, physically, you could see there was a lot of potential there and stuff to work with, but mentally she wasn't sort of where. How did you help Marielle deal with the mental side of things? Or Marielle, how did you just figure it out, and how do you deal with it now? Like you said, the pressure to dance better each year, which you put on yourself, but you know, there's always, are you going to retain your title, blah 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 blah. Like, how have you dealt with that over the years?
Well, when I was really young, so I kind of, when I started with Ellen, I think I just wasn't really aware. I wasn't really, you know, big into the competitions. And then I think, you know, I started kind of improving my dancing, and then I started doing well at the local level. And then I think it just kind of took me off guard that I didn't really, all of a sudden I was in this kind of competitive atmosphere and I didn't really know how to handle it. So I actually went through a period where I got extremely nervous before competitions, and it was just, yeah, I kind of went from almost one extreme to the other, like just being this super kind of, I don't know,
Happy-go-lucky, yeah, no care in the world.
All of a sudden very, very intense about things and just taking it too far that way. So yeah, and it took me a while to find a happy medium, I'd say, and just learn how to deal with the pressure and deal with the nerves. And it was definitely a process.
What happened was Marielle had certain dancers in her group that she had on a pedestal. You know, they were the winners in the group all the time. And then all of a sudden she's starting to be ahead of them. And I think as a young dancer, I don't think she knew how to handle that. Like, okay, now what? Like, what do I do now? Because she was, you know, dancing with them and then above them. And yeah, so we went through some pretty exciting times, Marielle and I. We've had a great journey. We look back and laugh now, but I don't know how many years, she would be sick before a competition, and sick several times before a competition. And nobody put pressure on her, like not even herself really, like, but she just,
I think it was mostly myself that I put it.
but
It
yeah.
definitely wasn't external. There was no one telling me I had to win or dance a certain way, but
So then you do the trial and error. I said, I think all Highland dancing teachers should be psychologists, because so my mother's skills weren't working, because Marielle, I would have had 3 children older than her. So I'm trying, everything that I've tried on other dancers, everything I've tried on my children, and that wasn't working. And you'd ask for help, but I think you have to figure it out as a person. And it took Marielle a little while to figure out how to deal with it. Maybe the odd time her teacher would get crabby with her. There was one time in particular, Marielle, do you remember I was really mean to you?
I do. But I saw the good in it in the end. I appreciate it.
Yeah, because I don't yell a lot. I didn't have to yell at Marielle, but I don't yell a lot in general. But I think we were at an ECHDA competition, and I think it was maybe the sword dance, which it usually always was, Marielle, and she couldn't do it. And I'm like, yeah, you can. No, I can't. Yeah, I can. It was back and forth, and the time is coming up to like line up on the stage, and I think I was really crabby with her. And I think something like, I told you I was not going to teach you anymore if you didn't get on the stage and do the sword. And so Marielle went, and all I'm thinking is, if she doesn't go, what do I do? How do I follow through on this one? But she did go, and she danced it, and well. And then I told her that I should have got the money for the prize she won, because she stressed me out so much.
I still remember I won $50 in that dance. And you'd always say, you owe me that $50.
But I think that was probably the only time we ever had a big bump in the road, right, Marielle? And you were probably, would you have been about 12?
Yeah, probably around there, somewhere that age.
We amicably figured out going forward how to fix these little bumps in the road, but yeah.
It's a long teacher-student relationship for sure. So that's pretty impressive that there's only a few bumps in the road. Since the pandemic came, how did that impact your training and your practicing? Because there's no competitions to work towards. So how did, and did you have problems staying motivated?
Well, I think since I've gotten older, I've sort of haven't done as much competing throughout the year as I used to when I was younger. So I'm sort of more used to now going from, one summer to the next, not having done a competition until, it gets to the next summer. And I've never really found, I think just because I've been doing it so long and I'm into such a routine that I'm pretty good at making myself practice regardless, just because I want to be able to dance well, and it keeps me active, and I find it more fun to do than most other cross training. So I didn't find the motivation really that hard, but probably what changed is it just gave a little bit more flexibility in terms of exploring like different, like cross training, like Pilates, or, not being, going for more bike rides or things, not being worried about injuring myself or overdoing something, that I could just kind of explore what other styles of training could look like. So I would say that that's the main thing. It can be nice. I think it's much harder for the younger dancers who are, they need that kind of constant motivation throughout the year to have those those competitions to work towards. But I think for me, yeah, I think I was able to just explore a little bit. And yeah, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Ellen.
Well, I mean, for your 6 years at university, you probably didn't get any competitions in from September until the end of April. And it was just keeping on track with your training regime. And then when pandemic hit, well, probably the first 6 or 8 months, you didn't really venture off your training program at all. It's been in the last 6 or 8 months or so that you've done a little bit, like she said, looked outside her regular regime and doing maybe some more intensive training that might leave her sorer the next day, that she couldn't have done a regular practice but didn't need to now that,
Yeah.
but she was always sending me videos of like, oh wow, I found this, and I think this is really good for, for working on whatevers, and sharing, sharing information back and forth. And yeah, then I think I just think the fact that she didn't do competitions like my other kids will do, like on a monthly basis or a bi-monthly basis, that helped her. And you're teaching now, so you're working on motivating the kids. So I think that keeps you motivated to be motivating the kids. Yeah.
What have you missed most about dancing during the pandemic?
Seeing me.
Yeah, I think like anyone, it's just seeing everyone, like seeing your dancing friends, seeing your teacher, seeing all the people that you're usually surrounded with at, the competitions throughout the year. I think if you ask most people, that's probably the number one thing. Seeing your friends in class, like, when we've been on Zoom for large portions of the year, you see your friends on a screen, but it's not the same as seeing them in person and getting to work with them in the same room, and you feed off their energy when you're in class together, and you can give them a big hug. And it's all those things that I think everyone's missing, but we'll get back to that hopefully soon. We're kind of on our way, so
Yeah, fingers crossed on that for sure. Ellen, did you want to answer what you miss most? Probably the same, right?
I missed my kids. I missed just all the silly, and listening to their stories, and watching them, watching them, share things with each other in school, or in dance class, about school, or they would reminisce about competitions. I'm seeing people on Facebook, and I'm sad that I'm missing their friendship, my friends. I told my dancers at the first couple of competitions back, I'm probably not going to watch them dance. I'm just going to be busy hugging all my friends and getting caught up with life. But yeah, just the whole, like, it's been my life. I started dancing at 5 and I'm 100. So how it's just impacted my life. And then Facebook is so nice to send you all the memories, all the time. It's just like, you could sit and cry. It's like, oh my God, like we're missing all this stuff. But anyway, we're getting there. But yeah.
Yeah, there's some truth to that. I mean, I danced, and I think for a lot of us, it's the summer season. Dance season is like one weekend after another, and it's wonderful. But then sometimes I think it's even like, oh, it's too much, right? Like I've got to do other things, or somebody's getting married, I've got to go to a wedding, and it's like, But now all of a sudden it's that's gone, and it's just it's so weird. Like every weekend is free, but you can't do anything, and all the people that you see and are part of their lives, even if it's just from week to week in the summer season, it's be nice to get back to that.
I had actually a friend last weekend that had come down into my area from Toronto to pick up. I won't mention a name, but she's got a premier dancer who you will know very well. But anyway, she was picking her kids up, and she's like, how far out of my way would it be to come and just say hi to you? I really miss my dancing friends. And it was, 20 or 25 minutes. And she's like, oh, that's nothing. I'm doing that. And she had a long drive back to Toronto, but she swung by with her daughter. Just, it's like, here's real dancing people. We can hug them now, and it was good. I just miss seeing my friends, my kids.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay, so
when everything opens, Marielle and I already have a pizza date.
Oh, nice.
As I get out to, well, first of all, I'll be holding a baby date. And then I'll have a pizza date later than that. But yeah, so it's just, and it'll be fun actually making plans again with your friends when you can get back together. And yeah.
I think that's one thing too, that the pandemic has kind of made me realize, or just made me think about, is one of the things that Ellen really cultivated in her dance class was just a sense of family. And I think that's what you really notice that you're missing, is just that sense of family, just getting together with your friends and dancing. And I think that's what kept me in dancing for so long, because there's only so many, competitions. If you're just in it for the awards, then that kind of gets old fast. But it's the people. If you're surrounded by a good group of people and people that you just love to dance with and love to dance for, then yeah.
I always told my kids that you'll forget about the awards going down the road, but you won't forget the fun times that you had. Like I could, and we were talking about Fergus, not that long ago, and I said something to Marielle. We were just commenting, and I said something about that cold beer at the end of the day, and I said, but do you remember? She says, I remember how good that felt because it was a really hot day. I said, do you remember what you got that day? She says, no, not really. No, I don't. Like, you don't remember what you placed, but you remember the friendships you had, and I think that's what I try to instill into my kids is your friends won't go away, but just the fact that you got a first, a second, a third, and a fourth at that particular competition, you're not going to remember that. It's the fun times, the friendship, and I do try to promote that big family, and they all look after each other. They all pay it forward. I have to be so thankful for that. My big kids always look after my little kids, but now I see my medium kids can't wait to step into that role. Like I see them inching the way in, like helping some little people, and that's what it's all about, at least that's what it was for my trip coming up. And
I feel that's very
Marielle.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really common thread in other people I've spoken to, other elite dancers, and the friendships, but the different role you play in the studio and the relationships in the studio as well. Just sort of segueing, you had a nice lead in there with the little memory on Fergus. For both of you, and I really love that you've spoken about how it's been intrinsic and improving your dancing that's really been a motivator. When you look back, what was the most exciting part of your dancing career? And then this might be different. What was your favorite dance memory? So they may be the same, they may be different.
I think that's a really hard one to pin down for me, because mostly just because I've been dancing for so long. So it's hard to pick a specific memory. Like there's you know, a lot that are very special to me, like the first time I won Worlds. And not that, you know, I was in shock, so I don't remember a lot of the details, but I do remember, like, you know, the parade through the town that they used to do with the two other world champions. And I remember the following year getting to do a trio with myself and Laura Cafferty and Colleen Rintamaki, and they were two of my dance idols growing up. So just like standing on stage, and I think by that time I'd actually had a chance to process it. So just being able to dance on stage with them was like the most, yeah, I still get goosebumps thinking about it, but
I saw that video. It was awesome.
yeah, there's been so many over the years that it's hard to, yeah, it's hard to pick one over the other, and so many memories with friends. Like a lot of my friends that I grew up dancing with, like when I was 10, 11, 12, they're still some of my best friends. Like even though, you know, some of them don't dance, I still keep in touch with them. We still, actually, one of my friends, every year when I'd go back to Fergus, that was sort of our, she lives in Hamilton, so that was sort of our yearly reunion. That even up till, you know, before the pandemic hit, the last time I went to Fergus, I'd go and stay with her and we'd have a weekend together. And so those friendships never really die, even though, you know, people might move on from dancing or they're not as active as they are. I think it's just, there's something special about spending that much time with people when you're young, you're growing up, that, you know, we'd spend every weekend at competitions. We lived a 5-hour drive from each other, but we'd spend, and we didn't go to the same dance school even, but we'd spend every weekend together. And, you know, now it's like you get together and it's like you never left. You just pick up where you left off from. And yeah, I think that's, and in terms of my favorite Fergus memory, so actually it's probably spending time, yeah, with her when I go down, but also the year I won the free trip to Scotland was probably up there. That was, I think anyone who's won that draw definitely remembers that year. So
Yeah, that's a great, especially for those people like yourself who tend to go every year to Scotland. Like that's a huge win and a great raffle that they do.
definitely, especially when you're a university student. And yeah.
Yeah. Ellen, what about you? What's your favorite? What most exciting memory? And again, could be the same favorite memory.
As Marielle said, there's been a lot. It's, I haven't even done the math. Like it's not quite 20 years, but it's a long time. We've had lots of laughs together. We haven't, it's been a really weird teacher relationship in that we never really have ever argued about anything. You know, anything I would suggest, and Mary, I'll be like, "You sure you want me to try doing it this way?" And I'm like, "Yeah, well, you try." Okay, like we've never had any, yeah, we just haven't. She gets on my case about drinking Pepsi. She rags on me about that. But other than that, we don't really have. But I don't know. I know. I think the one year that she won the Worlds. I'm really excited that she won the Worlds, and then she comes bouncing over to me, like she walked over to me to tell me she won the Worlds, but then she was bouncing over to me when her idol, can I say this, Colleen, or Marielle, when her idol, Colleen, asked her to dance at her wedding at Cowell, and Marielle's like, oh my God, and I'm going, you just won the Worlds, but she's like, but no, Colleen asked me to dance at her wedding, and that was Marielle's, that was like an honor, like, I don't know, that, and then
probably one of the most unforgettable.
Dancing with Colleen and Laura in Winnipeg that following year after you won the Canadians, that was pretty exciting. And then when you danced with
Aaron and
how
Emma.
long it's been since this pandemic.
The
Aaron
other world champion trio.
Pardon me?
The other world champion trio when I did it with Aaron and Emma.
With Aaron and Emma. That was pretty
another
special too, Marielle? Like, that's things that I knew that she would really remember and cherish. As far as, I don't know.
I'm gonna pop in here and say that for those who don't know much about Highland dancing, Colleen is Colleen Rintamaki, who is an Ontario dancer, and I think she won the adults 9 times.
I think she's won the worlds 10 times.
Yeah. Okay. Worlds. Yeah.
Adults versus the other.
Yeah. So I think she's the holds a title of most world championship titles, and a great Canadian Ontario dancer, and obviously dancer as well. So I think anybody being asked to dance her dancing at her wedding would be pretty honored to have that recognition. So I can imagine you were beaming.
I was, yeah. I actually remember she asked me before the awards happened, which I feel like almost made it that much more special because she had just seen me dance that day, and it wasn't because I had won that year or anything. So I think it kind of goes back to, you forget about the awards and all that happened, but sometimes it's just like someone will make a comment to you, or you'll just get a compliment from someone that usually it's actually your teacher, because your teacher's your biggest critic. But so it's like those small comments that you get sometimes really stick with you forever. And yeah, I remember that conversation. Like, I remember exactly where we were standing, and yeah.
But I didn't hear about it because you then had to go line up. So I didn't hear about it until after you won, that she had asked you. And so that's when I was pretty excited about her winning. And she's like, but listen to this. And she had always in class, as a little, dancing, always just admired Colleen for everything. Just for how gracious she was when she won, and how humble she was, and just what a beautiful ambassador to Highland dancing she was. And Marielle really, that was her idol growing up. And then it's actually funny.
Marielle's taken that mantle very well too, of a beautiful ambassador for Highland dancing, for sure.
It was actually funny because I think the first time somebody came up and they asked you to sign their sword, their practice sword, and you were like, why are you asking me to because she had probably been a couple-time world champion, but she didn't see herself as that go-to, that idol that she had. She was just like, this is just me. And I'm like, but they see you as, but anyway, no, we've had, it's been a fun road. We've had lots of laughs. We've happily not shared too many tears. It's really cool now because we aren't teacher student anymore. We're great friends that are both teachers, and we're sharing, our teaching woes through COVID right now, and how frustrating it is to not be able to reach out and fix somebody's foot. And so we are sharing a lot of that. But and it's but we're certainly missing all the competitions, Marielle? And
yeah.
And Fergus being one of the great ones.
It's always
happening a lot. I mean, you have such a great entry of dancers that they're all guaranteed they're going to see the majority of their friends. What was
Tuesday event, and a lot of people camp, and there's a lot of that togetherness time on top of the dancing.
Yeah. And then there's the antics that go with it. I think you've had a couple of stories from from Fergus. Didn't you have Didn't you and Kaylee have a 1 year, was it the hot dog truck or what was
Yeah,
that?
they had there were some hot dogs sponsored or some chicken dogs, and they were giving out chicken hats. We had our we had our chicken hats on. We were adults at this point, but all the kids were wearing our chicken hats and our boy outfits proudly.
That's good memories, though. That's fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I want to thank you both for being part of this series. I hope that everyone watching has enjoyed both our interview with Marielle and Ellen, and as well as all the other interviews with the younger dancers who I'm fairly certain all will watch this episode themselves just to see Marielle. As we noted, she is now an idol to many young dancers up and coming. So appreciate the time from both of you. I wish you both the best. I hope to see you in person soon.
I told her that she could have 6 weeks off of her dance practice after she has her baby. And then I expect to see videos coming back again. But, I'm not sure she's going to listen to me this time around.
Yeah, that one's always a hard one to figure out, right? Like life changes a lot after that baby. So,
Take it as it comes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't make any promises.
Well, I wish you the best with that, Marielle, as well. It's an exciting part of your life and new point in your life. So I hope to see you both soon. If not before, definitely, I hope at Fergus next year. And I wish you both the best. And thank you very much for being part of this.